Okay, so I don't really put videos on this channel that much, but I'm realizing that I should, because some of the videos that I should put on the channel about the mental health system and the cash for care system, I put in, what was I saying? Dang, I forgot already. Well, this starting off on a bad note. Uh, yeah, I was saying that some of the videos that I should put on here, I put on the other abuse evidence channels, but I'm probably gonna stop doing that. So I guess right here, I'm going to be talking about how psychiatry helps people sex traffic their kids or someone else's kid. So if you don't already know, child prostitution or any type of prostitution can involve sex trafficking. But usually when people say sex trafficking, they're not talking about the prostitution one. Because sex trafficking, like child sex trafficking, revolves around a lot of other stuff compared to just regular prostitution or even kids who were being prostituted, like, or they had to start prostituting themselves for money. Well, they shouldn't have to, but sadly that's how things are. People under 18 don't have any rights to get help, so that's still not the same thing. And so to start that off, I'm gonna go ahead and let it be known that a lot of the people who are being sex trafficked are also they're born into it because their families are into all that stuff. So they're born into sex trafficking. And so what they do is they already have people that know how to make fake documents and all of that stuff for the people with a fake name. And then they take them, they take them to get tested for STDs, because if they do get an STD, they burn them and put them in a barrel and dump them somewhere, or they have these machines that basically rape them to death. So stuff like that's not even what I'm supposed to be talking about, because I'm supposed to try to not get graphic, but that's what they do if they get an STD. I really want this to be as family friendly as possible. So they get them checked and all that other stuff, especially if they're born into it, because if they're born into it, the family doesn't need to try to make all these fake birth certificates and stuff. And so basically, if they notice that the person is trying to get any help or whatever, they can just take them to a psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist will label them with schizophrenia or whatever. And then if the person tries to get any help, the family, or if they're not related to them, they'll just be like, oh, they're just having schizophrenic delusions that they're being sex trafficked or hallucinations or whatever. And honestly, it's crazy how far people can go with just labeling somebody off with whatever mental disorder, especially with the fact that mental illness comes from trauma. But of course, a lot of people don't want to admit that mental illness comes from trauma because, for one, the psychiatrists, I mean, they know this and they'll admit it. Sometimes the psychologists and therapists will definitely admit it, but the psychologists really don't want to because they don't want to lose any money. And I mean, the whole mental health system, especially when it comes down to going to psychiatrists, is built off of money hungriness, eugenics, and sexism and lies, and just terrible stuff. Human torture, the whole system is built off that. So they know that if they admit that it comes from trauma, like, and make it a more publicly known thing, they're gonna lose money because all the people, at least underage, that come into the mental health system, that part of the cash for kids system, are traumatized. And it's like the people in there aren't even out of the situation. They're getting put in there by their abusers. It's not like they still have mental illness from abuse from somebody else, but then they got put with another family, and the family puts them in there in hopes that they'll get treatment, even though the mental facilities do nothing for anybody anyway. So if anything, you get worse after going in there, especially if you get put on the drugs, which they like to drug people up. So they're still in their situations, and of course nobody's going to want to bring their victim to get a mental label or to get locked up as a punishment if they already know the psychiatrists are admitting that mental illness comes from abuse anyway. So that's that. I don't think I have anything else to say about that. I thought I did, but I can't remember now anyway. So still, if somebody was schizophrenic, it still has nothing to do with whether they are or aren't getting sex trafficked. Because, I mean, becoming schizophrenic, although it's usually DID, those are like those are some things that you'll get from being sex trafficked or just sexually abused, period. Especially the type of stuff that goes on in sex trafficking. Becoming schizophrenic would definitely make sense, but of course, I mean, these people don't care. They just listen to any mental label somebody will say the victim has as an excuse to not do their job anyway. So yeah, the psychiatrist will label them with schizophrenia, maybe even something else. But for whatever reason, it's like saying schizophrenia is abuser's favorite thing to say. And I'm not just saying this because of my situation. It's a known fact. And if it's not that, it's autism, which I don't even understand why people will even go along with that anyway. I know that like usually when people hear autism, they think, oh, so that means that this person is slow. But now because of different stuff that psychiatrists say, now they may just associate it with being a sociopath because a lot of times sociopaths or even narcissists are labeled off as autistic or what was the other thing? Yeah, but honestly, that's when they go in and they try to like, I guess, confuse the psychiatrist because I know that like more often than the autism label, narcissists are usually falsely labeled with schizoaffective disorder, schizophrenia, and bipolar. But they do that on purpose though, because honestly, it doesn't make sense that these people would even be purposely that bad at doing their job to where somebody can really go in and get labeled with anything. And of course, it's already a known fact that, like, I mean, anybody who goes into a psychiatry office is going to walk out with some label, whether they have it or not. So it's like, they don't care about getting the right label or even not labeling the person if there isn't a need for a label, which is why you shouldn't go to a psychiatrist anyway. They just care about putting anything on paper, no matter what it is, and getting you on some type of drugs, as many as possible, for the paycheck. But I will say that in this situation, especially in abuse situations, they do know that it's going on. So, like, for the people who have been through this thing where they were getting sex trafficked by relatives, and then they just took them to a psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist said they were schizophrenic, or even not even that. Actually, even if a psychiatrist never said that, they could just put them in a mental facility and they say that they're schizophrenic with no paperwork or records backing up that they were ever even diagnosed with schizophrenia. Because I mean, the people in there, they just want a paycheck. They don't care. So the other thing I wanted to say about that is, because I really had a point to make about this. Okay, wait, I gotta think about this. Okay, so one thing that I can think about saying is that abusers already know that, like, um, institutions in the caster kid system are one of the worst punishments you can do. So, like, another thing with psychiatrists basically helping out sex traffickers is that they already, like, need certain drugs to, like, what's the word? I don't think that's the word. Sedate people and stuff like that. And so being able to just take somebody to a psychiatrist or mental facility and they'll just label them with anything, especially if you have a certain request for the mental label for your victim, they'll put that certain one on there. So with the fact that it's that easy because these people don't care and they just want the money, that means it's so easy to just get your hands on antipsychotics. And like I said, when my situation was in like the uh fiery point. No, I don't think I should say that. That doesn't really make that much. What's the better? The Let me say the extremely downhill point, to the point it was almost like, wait a minute, something's all up in my eye. Okay, so I don't know what in the world that was, but when it was at the really downhill point where it like got really bad, the second time I moved in with my mom, where the whole 14 plus diagnosis thing happened at 12, where I was diagnosed with really half the DSMV. And that's the funny thing about it, though. Well, not funny, but like that's the craziest thing about it. It's like I was literally diagnosed with just about everything in there. So that's when the whole drugging thing happened. Well, started. That's the same thing. So when that started, basically, I was on, I don't know how many different ones. I think maybe 8 different drugs. And the dosages were really, really high too. And these pills already cause the brain damage. They turn off parts of the brain because that's what they're made to do, to turn off certain parts to quote unquote stabilize. They create a chemical imbalance that actually isn't there already. And so that kills the brain cells and all that. Then it causes mental problems, neurological problems, some that don't even go away, like the sexual dysfunction, where like you can't finish. Some people, that one never goes away for them. Or it does kind of go away, but then sometimes you still really can't feel it. And so anyway, uh, there's that. Then there's the Parkinsonism, all that stuff. That stuff, for one, makes you feel really sick. In fact, it can even put you in comas at last days. Because I know at one point, with the second go around with the whole pill thing, I would get really bad serotonin syndrome because I would always get that when I was on them the first time. But the second time, it was even worse to the point where I'd be quote unquote sleep for 3 days. So like, I lay down and go to sleep one day, and then I wake up with double vision, blurry vision, bad coordination, bad balance, can barely walk, all of that stuff. 2 days later at like anywhere from 6 to 10 p.m., stuff like that. So these drugs are really debilitating. So it's like a psychiatrist is a sex trafficker's best present, really. Because then whenever you think the person's going to leave, or whenever you just want them to be knocked out so you can do whatever, or if you just want to do something to torture somebody, just give them some antipsychotics. And then the bad thing about that is it does eventually lead to death. So they really shouldn't do it long term. They probably would just do it like whenever they want to punish somebody, then they'll give them the drugs. Then they're having double vision, blurry vision. So that means they can't really see. They can't walk because the double vision and blurry vision, that's at the same time. So you can't see, the bad balance and bad coordination. You can't walk. You're walking into walls. You're bumping into stuff. So you can't run anywhere. The obviously the coma is the coma. So you really can't do anything right there. And then what was the other thing? And then there's other health problems it causes, like the metabolic syndrome. Wait, you really wouldn't want them to get that, especially if you want them to look a certain way. You don't want them to get that. So it's like that would most likely mean that they'll have to be only put on the pills for certain reasons. Because, like, the metabolic syndrome weight, which is diabetic weight, the pills, they mess up how your body takes in. Wait, no. It messes up your white blood cell levels. This is really sad, but just bear with me, guys. And then what's the other thing that goes with that? Is that the hemoglobin? I think that's what that's called, but I don't know. It messes up that too. If that is something else, uh, then other stuff, and it gives you diabetes. And then you get the diabetic weight, and then the other thing. Oh yeah, the heart failure. I think it takes a while to get that, but it starts giving you symptoms of the heart failure. And so, like, I know that would be something that they would be worried about, since that starts in like 2 weeks of taking the pills every day straight. But it's a way to sedate somebody, basically. That's the point. Because it'll really have somebody messed up. And with ADHD pills, if it's not the other type of antipsychotics, but it's like the ADHD psychotropics, those are really sedate people. And some of the side effects aren't as bad as like with the other types of antipsychotics, where like you're basically constantly on the verge of death. And then the whole turn off the bowel side effects, where you can't use the bathroom, and then after 30 days, or even less than 30 days, depending on how much the pills make you eat, because they do make you eat a lot, you'll have a bowel infection, which can then make your bowels burst. Because actually, my dad's aunt, I don't know if she was a scapegoat like I was, and she was in a similar situation to me, but she had ended up getting put on those by the relatives and all that. And so the bowel infection eventually got so bad for her to where her bowels burst, and it came out both ends. So it came out her mouth and the other end. But of course, the doctors and stuff just said she had a stroke. That's a good little excuse, a stroke. That was just. Actually, I think she did have a heart attack at the same time, though, because the diabetic weight and all that comes from the metabolic syndrome, which causes heart failure. And, well, that doesn't have anything to do with weight, though. I don't even know why I said the weight part. But anyway, she had the weight, too, if it makes it any better. So, yeah, that's that. Anyway, so what I was saying was, what was I saying? Oh yeah, the ADHD pills. I think that's what I was saying. So those are the ones that'll have somebody staring at a TV all day, slobbed and making noises, unable to walk. It'll make people not even be able to get up to go to the bathroom, because my older brother also went through something somewhat similar with the whole psychiatrist situation, and of course the whole black boys trauma symptoms being labeled off as ADHD thing. So yeah, he wouldn't even get up to go to the bathroom, and all the other stuff that goes along with that. So if they don't want it to be too horrific, they will go with the ADHD pills. But then that would mean you have to maybe get ADHD diagnosis. And I say maybe because some people with autism also get thrown on ADHD pills and antipsychotics to sedate them and get them to not make the noises, because I guess the parents just get tired of. There's no excuse for it. I don't care what excuse they try to make for that. They'll be like, you don't know how hard it is to listen to the noises that they make all day, so how dare you tell me not to drug my kid? You're basically giving your kid a death sentence because they make noises. Really. That's really what people say, though. That's really what people say. And then it's the people like that. Well, no, not really the people like that, but sometimes them, and then people who have mental illnesses from the abuse, and then the ones who just have false mental labels to cover up the abuse. It's those people and the ones that drug their kids who nobody wants to offend, and that's why nobody will talk about the real truth of the psychiatry and the cash for kids system, because usually when the cash for kids system is talked about, it's like they're either just talking about the TTIs, because that's the main one people know about. Well, kind of. Usually it's about the juvenile justice system and people sentencing the kids for crimes they didn't even do, and then the parents are crying and trying to get their kid out of jail for years. Their kid goes in healthy and then they come out a drug addict and kill themselves. That's not funny. It's just anywho, that wasn't like, it's not like a laugh because it's funny. It's like, you know what, let me not even try to over explain because I don't even know how to explain. So anyway, that's what people are usually talking about, but they don't ever talk about the fact that majority of the cash for kids system is people who are put in there by their parents. The juvenile justice thing where people are like sentenced for crimes they didn't commit and their parents didn't want it to happen and they try to get them out. I don't even think that happens anywhere near as often as the usual situations for 99.9% of the cash for kids system. And then when it's not the parents putting them in there, it's because they're in the foster care system, which means that they're a ward of the state, so the government does whatever they want to do with them. So, like, just like if you're in the military, if they want to do an experiment on you, they can, which they have done experiments on foster kids, like seeing what would happen if they put a kid in the house with a known child molester. That experiment went on for, I think, a couple of years. And then, of course, the kids started cross-dressing. Then they didn't. Then they started. They got a fear of. They either got a fear of the opposite gender, or they just only like the same gender, or both. All that stuff that goes along with that. And so that's how the system is. So, if they want to do an experiment with you, they will. Or if they want to just traffic you around the cash for kids system, they will. And the foster care system is a part of the cash for kids system. So now I don't know what to title this because I've said a couple of different things. I guess I'll still title this How Psychiatrists Help Sex Traffickers. I mean, I don't think I was as off topic in this video as I am in the videos on the other channel, so it wasn't that bad. So yeah, that's that. I mean, there's other things I could say, but I feel like I've already went on enough, especially about things that were kind of relevant. I need to start writing scripts because I only ever stay on topic when I write down what I want to say.